All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Indiana's Attorney General says lawmakers need to give him more power to sue landlords who violate the terms of their leases. His comments follow a lawsuit that he filed on behalf of the tenants of a low-income apartment complex here in Indianapolis. Our government reporter Garrett Berquist spoke with Todd Rokita about that issue and the abortion ban set to take effect next month.
Let's bring in Attorney General Todd Rokita. Mr. Attorney General, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you guys.
Tell me about this lawsuit you filed against the Willowbrook Apartments.
Well, I'll tell you, we're seeing an increase, certainly in the capital city, but perhaps elsewhere as well, of landlords, and in a lot of cases out-of-state landlords, who think they can just step on the little guy. And we're fighting for the little guy here. That's the person, the single mom, the disabled person, the elderly person who's paying their rent in good faith every month, only to have these landlords not uphold their end of the bargain, not keep the electricity on, not keep the water going, allowing pest infestations and other conditions that you would find in a third world country you shouldn't be finding in Indianapolis. And so our office is getting more and more involved using different tools that haven't been really used before, whether it's deceptive consumer sales practices, whether it's Home Loan Practices Act, using that law, or even the nonprofit laws in this state, which really need to be updated.
Do you plan to go to the legislature next session to ask for updates to the nonprofit law?
We have been, really, the last two sessions, and we were very, very close this last session, and hard to explain. I'm not a lawmaker. I certainly don't judge them. They're our partners, but they really have to stand up and get this done so that we can stop not only this scourge, but other scourges from happening to good Hoosiers who want to be helpful in the nonprofit world, but just can't be because of the bad actors that are again stepping on us.
Describe the situation with Willowbrook. What do you hope to accomplish here?
Well, the good thing is, I don't know if you could focus on this, but this is a letter that came from a Willowbrook apartment renter the day after you guys broke this story about what was happening there and about what we were doing about it. And guess what? Those out-of-state landlords, those out-of-state owners were Johnny on the spot already fixing the problem. So now that doesn't excuse what's happened before and their behavior before, and we're going to hold them accountable, but it's a good sign from one of these renters that the day after we got on us, both of us, the media as partners with us, that changes are already happening.
What should people do if they are living in these apartments, or if they are living in another apartment, they run into some similar situations?
Well, again, I have to manage expectations because the law, as I've mentioned, is woefully behind what is needed, frankly. But file a complaint with my office and we'll see if the facts line up to see whether or not under existing laws that we're able to utilize, that haven't been utilized before, we're able to help out. The best thing you can do is let us know. Go to the Indiana Attorney General's website, very easy to Google. On the very front page, I just checked this morning, you can see a big button to press to say file a complaint. And that works for all kinds of complaints that we deal with, whether it's doctors or roofers or landlords.
Do you think you'll be able to get some additional fixes to the renters laws and the nonprofit laws through the legislature this session?
I'm hopeful. I really am. I'm not sure what the hesitancy is, except for some special interests out there that are probably worried about us looking into their practices. But nothing we do here is unwarranted. We are way too busy. We get 20,000 cases a year. And so we are drinking from a fire hose. We don't have time to go on searches or witch hunts or anything that we might be accused of. We have a big plate right in front of us. And I'm really proud of my staff because we're working really hard. They work very hard. They're very proactive. We're dealing in Fort Wayne now with a bridal studio. I mean, the range of cases that we get are unwieldy and sometimes hard to imagine. But we're in them all, and we're proactive.
Before we go, I want to briefly address the current status of the new abortion law. Will that go into effect on August 1st, and what parts will remain enjoined by the courts?
Well, I think Planned Parenthood is a great way to answer that question because they've already publicly announced that they're curtailing their appointments after August 1st. So what you're seeing in practical effect, regardless of the status of some of these legal cases, and there are several, is that the culture of life is winning in Indiana. And what those lawmakers did and the courage they had to stand up for the culture of life against a nation that seemingly exercises a culture of death is nothing short of remarkable. And as one court's already at least preliminarily decided that law is constitutional, there are other suits that have to work their way through the system, but we're very positive that we'll prevail on those suits, or we should prevail on those suits as well under the law and under the constitutions. And I think pragmatically, again, that's being borne out in the actions of these abortion providers who have already announced that they're curtailing, if not ending, their appointments.
We had a case out of Nebraska where a mother and her daughter both were convicted on felony charges after the daughter illegally obtained an abortion there. Will your office criminally prosecute a woman who obtains an abortion outside of the confines of Indiana's new abortion law?
Well, a couple of things. I don't think the law doesn't account for that, so no. The answer is no. I don't have that kind of authority at all. And if this goes to the salacious and false narrative that's out there right now about how some attorneys general want personal medical records, let me just say this: it's disgusting. The only people who want to change anything with regard to those medical records is the Biden administration and the far left. They're making the change. What we're calling for is simply the status quo. Anything I'm being accused of going to do after August 1st, if I was able to get a hold of these records, is the same that I could do today, right now. And so if I was guilty of all these things that we're being accused of, I would have already done them.
All right, coming up, former President Donald Trump faces more charges in the classified documents case. His former intelligence chief explains why they're not simply a bunch of papers. Welcome back. Former President Donald Trump facing additional charges of willful retention of national intelligence information and obstruction of justice. That news came late in the week from the classified documents probe. Former Director of National Intelligence and longtime Indiana Senator Dan Coats talked to CNN about the damage this could do to national security. He also explained the steps that were taken to secure the 2020 election.
Well, I assumed that his staff, as my staff did for me and everybody else, remind him that this is classified, it has to be careful. I didn't have a direct talk with him on that. His chief of staff, John Kelly, and others and so forth, were managing that. So I think everybody assumed that the president knew, the president was aware of the fact that classification mattered. And it's sacrosanct, really. And a lot of times people say, well, what's the big deal about all of this? If you walk into the lobby of the CIA and look to the right wall, you see a bunch of stars. Their names aren't there because they're covert, but they're dead because somebody got their names out, maybe on a classified document. We put millions of dollars into technology for gathering intelligence. And if that's breached because somebody gets a classified document floating around or knows of it, we lose that information that we are grabbing. So it's more than just a bunch of papers and what big deal is this and so forth. Lives can be lost. Money can be misspent. We can be, our adversaries are out there searching, trying to get this kind of information because they want to undermine us. So we have these threats that come in, and so it's something that we remind our people every day, every time every new person comes into the DNI or to any other intelligence agency. You must do this. You must take care of it. Don't carry this around. Put it in the safe before you leave.
There's deadly consequences.
There are deadly consequences. There are people out there that know these other people, know they're going to a person, whether it's the president, whether it's the director of national intelligence or something else, and buying off or trying to get information from something like that. So you never can be sure. It's classified for a reason. It's classified because we don't want others to know what's happening. Well, there are people in prison who have taken stuff home when they knew they shouldn't have taken it home. Maybe it was truly innocent on it, but it's so critical that we abide by the rules. And obviously, those of us in high positions are surrounded by people who know that. And so if I leave something on my desk and walk out the door, somebody runs after me or grabs that and puts it back in the safe, say, hey, you left that in your drawer. I mean, they go through my desk. It's got to go back into the safe. Oops, sorry about that. Well, I knew we had been at a major effort, and I took a lead as DNI with our intelligence agencies to put a group together of my top people from each of the agencies, say, look, we have to really dig into this to make sure that our elections are secure. We worked with Homeland Security on the domestic side, and we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars. We've sent people out to work with governors. We wanted to make sure that we had all the implements in place to guarantee that every person's vote was legitimate. If we lose confidence from the American people in terms of their vote doesn't matter, our democracy will decline and maybe won't be a democracy anymore. We have to have integrity of that. So we have to put in place all the systems that if there's a glitch, if there's a problem, let's go after it. We said we must have paper backup. We must have audits. We're welcome audits. If something goes wrong, a Republican can stand here and a Democrat can stand here and they can watch the count and see what happened. If there was a fraud and the other person won, we accept that. But as we know, in 2020, there were, 65,000 court cases. No one could provide any proof whatsoever. We had audits many times, some states 3 times, some states people said, oh, if they hire them, they'll surely be on our side. Oops, no, we didn't find it. So we've done everything we can to put in place the process to make sure that the people who are voting know that their vote counts and there's no reason why this person should, not win that election.
All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team talks about a controversial campaign statement, landlord-tenant laws, and more. And welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in 2 members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Destiny Wells and Republican Whitley Yates. Good to see you both. Let's begin with the gubernatorial candidate Curtis Hill's announcement that he would eliminate the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity if he's elected. Destiny, we'll start with you. We haven't gotten any reports or recommendations out of that office so far. So does Hill have a point when he says it merely replicates what other commissions do?
Hey, that was an office that was brought in after the George Floyd protest in 2020 by Governor Holcomb. If you visit the website, it offers great tools, a database to show the inequities and disparities amongst different types of classes of people. The leader there and the leadership team does a lot of outreach with IEDC. And so I was really puzzled when Curtis Hill said that he would get rid of this. You know, these offices are in the Republican Party. We have a director of diversity and engagement in the Indiana Republican Party. It's just not really in lockstep with the party.
Whitley, to the politics of it all, how effective is this at differentiating Hill from the field? And is this a preview of the strategy that he'll take?
I think that it definitely differentiates him by making statements such as this, but I would push back. I do think that the office is valuable and of value, from the equity database to their next level teams training over 5,000 different state employees on civility and how to disagree in a civil manner, which I think we need a little bit more of today in our society. I think what he is attempting to do, though, is set himself apart. As a diversity practitioner, I'm not going to pretend as though that there haven't been diversity efforts that have been performative, because we've all seen them and have had no impact. But the Chief Equity and Inclusion Office and Kara Herring are not those people. Yeah. I think what he's attempting to do is force the hand of the other candidates to say something about whether they're going to keep the office or eradicate it.
All right, well, we'll see what comes out of that. Now, earlier in the show, as you know, we heard from Attorney General Todd Rokita. He says he's having to get creative with Indiana's consumer laws to go after landlords that don't fulfill their maintenance obligations. Whitley, Indiana has some of the state's weakest protections, as you know, for renters. Is there any appetite for changes in the legislature?
I'm really happy that Attorney General Todd Rokita is taking this issue up. For people who do follow me and know that I'm on Twitter consistently, for the past 30 days, I have not had any air in my apartment. And so I'm excited that he is going to be going after those landlords who are receiving money, receiving rents, and not producing what they're supposed to be, whether that's based on Indiana law or the leases in which they set forth themselves. I think it's long past overdue for there to be teeth placed in policies that help protect renters and our housing.
Well, hopefully you get AC soon, because it is brutal out there. Destiny, the ability to withhold rent gets a lot of attention. Would that have made a difference in the case Rokita discussed, in your opinion?
Well, I think it could have helped. You know, I have worked in the Attorney General's office. The Consumer Protection Division does great work. I wish what I heard from the Attorney General was him not being honest as to how he got into this predicament. He said he wasn't a legislator, but he was one for a really long time. And he knows that the power of the Indiana Landlord Association has on the supermajority Republican legislature. And so as a Republican, I think he needs to own that piece of the problem.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, ladies, has suggested that he's warming up to the idea of impeaching President Joe Biden. Meanwhile, a plea agreement for Hunter Biden, as you know, on tax evasion charges fell apart. Do these developments, Destiny, suggest that these might be something there might be something rather to the accusations against the Biden family after all?
Well, not the Biden family, right? I mean, just Hunter Biden, his wayward son at times. And so, you know, what we had here was there was not a meeting of the minds when it came to the contract in front of the judge. She is a Trump-appointed judge, but I think she made the right call. And she discovered that both sides had different interpretations of the immunity clause within that contract. It didn't kill the deal. She just sent them back to their corners to try to figure out and hammer this out within the next 30 days. I don't think there was some sweetheart deal conspiracy going on here at all. I think maybe just some bad lawyering.
Whitley is reacting. So Whitley, I have a minute left. Let's get your reaction on this.
Absolutely not. It is presidential privilege and presidential protection. The fact that Hunter Biden feels as though he can get a sweetheart deal such as this and not have to face any other repercussions for the things that he has done outside of tax evasion, outside of getting a firearm when he wasn't supposed to be having one, he wants his immunity to cover everything, other crimes that may or may not have been committed by him. And that's just not how it works. It's not how it works for everyday citizens, and it shouldn't be how it works for the son of the President of the United States.
Good conversation, ladies. Always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll be right back.
Take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
All right, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network at wishtv.com. Also a programming note. Last week we aired a very special edition of Honoring the Fallen. We took a closer look at the impact of officer deaths and what they're doing to law enforcement across the state. If you would like to see it, head on over to wishtv.com where you can find it. Have a great rest of your week.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.